What if the biggest thing holding you back from building wealth isn't your job or even how much you make, but something you picked up when you were just a kid? Today, we're going to dive into one of the most famous financial stories out there, Robert Kiyosaki's tale of his two dads. It's this powerful look at two totally different ways of seeing the world, the employee versus the investor, and how that one difference in mindset can literally map out your entire financial future. So where does a story like this even begin? Well, the whole journey kicks off with a really simple, almost innocent question. A young Robert Kiyosaki goes up to his father, who, by the way, has a PhD and is the head of education in Hawaii, and asks him this exact question. And it makes sense, right? We go to school to get ready for life. And let's be honest, money is a massive part of life. But the answer he got, it wasn't about economics or budgeting. No, it was something way more revealing about the system we're all brought up in. And there it is. That's the answer. His father, who he later called his poor dad, just laid out a core truth of the entire system. He basically said the government decides what we learn, and financial education just isn't on the list. The point of school wasn't to learn about money, it was to learn how to get a job. And that single sentence, man, it perfectly captures the employee mindset. So that conversation pretty much sent Kiyosaki looking for answers somewhere else. And that led him to his best friend's dad, an entrepreneur who he started calling his rich dad. And just like that, you have the central framework for his entire education. Two very smart, very successful guys with completely opposite ideas about money, work, and life. This slide just lays it all out, doesn't it? The clash of these two worldviews is crystal clear. On one side, you've got the safety net philosophy of the employee. Trust the system, play it safe, avoid risks. That's the path of stability. But on the other side, you have the entrepreneur's reality. You are your own safety net. You're responsible for you. And mistakes? Oh, they're not just possible, they're pretty much mandatory for growth. One path is all about minimizing your losses, the other is all about maximizing your wins. So Kiyosaki goes to his rich dad for some guidance. But that first lesson, it was definitely not what he was expecting. The price for this priceless financial education, he had to work for free. And this right here is the absolute core of the investor mindset. Rich Dad's logic was simple. A paycheck is a trap. The second you start getting paid for your time, your brain gets wired to think like an employee, trading hours for dollars. So the very first step is to break that connection. You've got to train your mind to look for opportunities, not just pay stubs. This slide really breaks down how that trap works. See, it all starts with wanting the security of a steady paycheck. Nothing wrong with that. But that desire trains you to think inside the box of a job description. And once you're stuck in that mindset, you often just stop seeing the bigger opportunities to build real wealth that are all around you because you're so focused on just getting to that next payday. Okay, so if he wasn't getting paid with money, what was he getting? He was getting an education, and the classroom for his first huge lesson in wealth creation was, you guessed it, the Monopoly game board. This was it. This was the secret formula. Rich Dad told him that one of the greatest paths to wealth was hidden in plain sight, right there in a board game. The strategy couldn't be simpler. You acquire small cash-flowing assets, that's your 4 greenhouses, and then you trade them all up for one massive significant asset, the Red Hotel. And this is where it gets brilliant, because it shows this wasn't just a game. In the real world, Rich Dad was playing Monopoly for real. For years, he went around buying up small properties from individual shopkeepers on Waikiki Beach. Those were his greenhouses. Then he assembled them, packaged them all into one giant piece of prime real estate, and partnered with Hyatt to build his Red Hotel. And the result of applying that simple board game formula to the real world? Whoa! That hotel was eventually sold for $800 million. I mean, that's just a staggering number, and it proves the incredible power of shifting your focus from an employee's salary to an investor's game of acquiring assets. But as amazing as that number is, that wasn't the real lesson here. The true inheritance from Rich Dad wasn't the money. It was the mindset that made all of that possible in the first place. This is the core insight of the whole story. We don't just inherit money or a lack of money from our families. We inherit our attitudes about it. It's in the way our parents talked about bills around the dinner table, how they talked about rich people, about what was possible for people like us. Those little conversations we all overhear as kids, they can end up shaping our entire financial destiny. And here it is, the most practical, most powerful example of that difference in thinking. The poor dad mindset makes a statement, I can't afford it. It's a dead end, a full stop. It's an escape that lets your brain off the hook. But the rich dad mindset, it asks the question, how can I afford it? That one little change forces your brain to wake up, to start problem solving, and to actively look for possibilities. This quote just drives the point home perfectly. Your words literally create your reality. Saying, I can't, becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because your brain just stops working on the problem. But asking, how can I? Well, that's like flipping a switch that turns on your financial creativity and sets you on a path to actually find a solution. In the end, the journey from poor to rich doesn't start in a bank account. It starts with the words you use inside your own head. So, this all comes down to a final question, and this one is for you. Think about your own financial life. When you face a big challenge or have a huge goal, what's your first instinct? Does your mind make a statement, shutting things down, or does it ask a question, opening things up? Really think about it, because that answer, well, it might just be the most important financial decision you ever make.